Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for those of you who are here on time. Uh, Welcome. My name is Serenia Matute. I am a senior regional planner here at SCAG, and I am delighted to welcome you, I believe, to Toolbox Tuesday on the topic of mobility hubs. Next slide, please. This slide provides some housekeeping before we get started. The meeting will last about an hour and a half. This meeting is being recorded. All participant lines will be muted. At the conclusion of our presentations, there will be a Q&A session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type it into the chat box or press the raise hand function. We will log all questions and then voice a selection at the end of the presentation. In addition, closed captioning can be turned on by clicking the show captions on the Zoom ribbon. A recording of this webinar and the PowerPoint slides will be available on the SCAG website, and we will send a link to everyone who has registered after the event. Lastly, number 9, please fill out our survey at the end to help us improve future Toolbox Tuesdays. Next, I will go to the next slide. This is our land acknowledgement. Apologies, I'm trying to pull up the exact verbiage. I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. We are currently on occupied and unceded land of Indigenous people who are and have been the traditional caretakers of land in this region. I'm calling in from the Tongva area, and if you haven't already, I encourage you to visit resources shared in the chat to learn more about the land and Indigenous communities where you live. I will post them here. Or not. Amanda, do you mind adding them here if you're able?
No.
Thank you.
Yes, you can do it.
All right. And now we are on to the agenda. We have a jam-packed session, and I'm really excited to have brought all these people together. We will first be going over SCAG's newly published Mobility Hubs Design and Implementation Guide. I will drop a link to it momentarily. I'm also really pleased to share that we'll be hearing 3 case studies. The first will be from Jennifer Nguyen, the Director of Planning at the Riverside Transit Agency. She's going to talk about our Vine Street Mobility Hub, which has been completed, followed by Cal State Dominguez Hills. They will discuss their on-campus EV car share mobility hub. And then lastly, LADOT and Transito will discuss their efforts. In order to do some level setting, Jennifer, would you mind pulling up the polling questions? We'd like to know who exactly is on the call so that the speakers and we all know who's here. So question number 1 is, what type of agency are you with? And then what county are you from? I will allow a couple moments to complete it. Righty, it looks like we're getting really close to finding out who's on the call. Very interesting to see a great balance of public and private partners. Also really grateful that we have some nonprofit participants along with 7 people calling in from higher education, which is wonderful. And then in terms of representation, we've got about just over half are calling in from LA County, followed by representatives from other counties in the SCAG region. And then 17 of you are actually calling from outside of the SCAG region, which is really wonderful. All right. Can we move on to the next polling question? It is, if you are, this is more of a curiosity again, level set, is if you're representing a city, do you allow micro mobility devices?
from. So, so we have a brief agenda here, where we can go, we do a quick overview of the Brookfield funding.
All right.
Just a refresher on eligible and non-eligible costs. We'll, we'll dive a little deeper into that refinement aspect.
Oh, no, sorry. Someone just told me I was muted. Alrighty, of the 28 or so people who have participated, half of you, a third of you said yes. You allow scooters, no. Another 9 said no, and then
So,
another 8 said unsure.
This is a
Alrighty, and I think can we go on to the last question, which is, how familiar are you with mobility hubs?
temporary additions to the right of way that largely avoid to excavate any that would be so
Jennifer, someone put in the chat that there is no sound.
Any element that
Is that, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna close the poll and share the results. Very exciting that about 12% on the who participated said they are already experts. That's great. I want to meet every one of you, but I'm really glad that we've got some pros already here. Over half said you're just getting up to speed, which is really wonderful. I hope that you find the resources SCAG has to provide and these case studies to be inspiring, and provide you with ideas on how your agency or organization can support the implementation of mobility hubs. And another 17 said that you're rookies. All right. Now I am going to move on to provide an update on SCAG's regional mobility hub strategy.
Yeah, I'm very sympathetic.
The next slide.
Dash.
So for some, this is already, we usually, I start with, well, what are mobility hubs? And in SCAG's world, we've defined them as physical places where people can seamlessly connect with multiple modes of transportation in a safe, comfortable, and accessible environment. Why mobility hubs? They support safe and convenient transfers between different modes of transportation. They provide first and last mile connections to transit, and they provide travel options, especially for those who have limited mobility options. Also shift modes, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, placemaking, and reducing vehicle miles traveled from new land development. Yes, I do apologize. There is somebody else on the next to me on a call. This slide goes over SCAG's regional mobility hub strategy. You will see on the right-hand side, our strategy,
So that's why.
our strategy involves developing a design and implementation guide, coordinating with stakeholders to identify and evaluate partnership opportunities, positioning locals for success and competing for grant funding, continuing to refine our baseline network of mobility hubs, and then developing 1 to 2 mobility hub pilot projects through our regional pilots initiative. The graphic on the left will show you again, kind of like help you visualize so you can see that we first began talking about mobility hubs actually in a 2022 mobility as a service white paper, and then we developed a strategy including a network of mobility hubs for Connect SoCal 2024. And then the next couple of slides I'm going to talk to you about the new guide we just published, and I will move on. All right, so as part of developing our mobility hub strategy, we created six mobility hub typologies. Each of these mobility hubs have designated land uses based on definitions from our scenario planning model, as well as transportation features. And in addition to existing land uses and transportation characteristics, each hub includes a list of elements that are highly recommended, or not applicable. It's important to note that design and access elements can vary significantly based on topography, property lines, and other local context factors. As part of this slide just goes over the process we went through in order to develop the design guide, which included outreach to public partners. We hosted a mobility hub workshop attended by over 50 people. And then lastly, we did launch a mobility hub related webpage at SCAG's website. So on to the design guide itself. So the design guide, now live, is about 55 pages, lots of photos in it. It's divided into 3 parts: plan your mobility hub network, design the hub, and implement the hub. And in the section on that, it includes a lot of funding sources. You'll also find priority project conceptual designs, a list of the mobility hub priority sites, and there will be case studies scattered throughout the guide. So this section, this slide talks about how to plan your mobility hub. And you'll see here that, and this is in the guide, it talks about, well, defining what a mobility hub means for your community, choosing typologies, doing a sites analysis, and you should be considering, it should be all context specific. So considering transportation conditions, followed by developing conceptual designs and community engagement, and lastly, developing an implementation study and program recommendations. This slide is actually an example of a sites analysis process for SCAG, which is the Council of Governments up in Sacramento. And the reason I included this here is just to help people understand that this is a process that you can go through where you can use a data-driven approach in order to identify new mobility hubs, or to figure out how to prioritize existing mobility hubs in your communities for additional investment. And then a slide here, just as important as is what's going outside of the mobility hub. And we do provide guidance on how to consider the needs of pedestrians, cyclists, and transit riders, and other users, such as people traveling, engaging in caregiving, and the needs of women. Also considerations for safety, accessibility, maintenance, community integration, and environmental integration. The second section of the hub will talk about how to design the mobility hubs and include some key strategies, considerations for mobility hub elements, considerations for design, the idea of a kit of parts, and conceptual designs. And this is one of the slides that, this is a slide from our guide. This is a priority proximity matrix, and it's something that, as you'll see here, this is something that was developed by our team, again, to help. It's an example for other localities to copy, where you want to create a pecking order of the kind of amenities that you add to your mobility hub. And it can be tiered based on the location and like proximity to, like, you might have your mobility hubs with lots and lots of amenities, followed by your more neighborhood serving locations. by no means prescriptive, but provided in our guide as a template to help cities do their own mobility hub. And then similarly, I share this table. This is our kit of part table. And the way that we used it was when we were developing priority conceptual designs for priority projects. We analyzed to figure out what kind of hub they should be based on the land use characteristics. And then we were able to go through and figure out, well, what kind of amenities should be there. And this matrix at least was important for us, and it might be of value to other cities because it helps you create consistency. Like people should be able to know what to expect. It's kind of like you go to a bus stop and it's reasonable to expect at least there'll be a bus stop target and some information. And Mobility Hubs takes that to another level. This slide goes over the sections in our guide that talk about implementation. And we provide examples of paths to implementation through including pop-ups and quick build. We talk some discussion about how to do ongoing iterative adjustments, including how to manage data at the curb and performance metrics. There's another section on operations maintenance. We also talk about funding resources. And I'm going to put a plug in the chat for our recently opened or we're about to open a call for projects under what we call the Surface Block Transportation Grant and CMAC, Congestion Mitigation. I forgot the rest of the acronym. Sorry about that, guys. But this is the time to get dialed in. SCAG is providing technical assistance throughout the month. All right. And then the last one is about public-private partnerships. We've got our 3 case study partners here, and they will talk extensively about the kind of partnerships they had to form in order to build, design, build, and implement their mobility hubs. This slide just gives you highlights of the case studies that you'll be able to find inside our guide. They include the 710 Mobility Hub study, the MTC EV car share project, and affordable housing pilot, a plug for advertiser-supported bus stops, LADOT, Transito will happen to be here, and then the East Boston Go Hubs pilot program. I think we're nearing, oh yeah, another hallmark inside our guide are the conceptual designs. And you will see again that these were priority projects for us, but more importantly for users, you'll get a handle of the kinds of tools that you can use in order to do your hubs. So we do include sample conceptual designs, a gap and opportunity analysis, and a project cut sheet that contains cost estimates. And we did end up developing these designs for the 4 cities listed here: Burbank, Fontana, Moore Park, and Paris. We are nearing the end for me. We do include advice on the kind of partnerships that you can form here and call out the need for partners, stakeholders, champions, supporters. We also discuss the approval processes and necessary agreements that you will need. I can't promise that's inclusive. If we overlook something, please let me know, because that would be illuminative for me and for everyone really involved. And this is almost done. So these are the next steps, at least for SCAG. We are publicizing this mobility hub guide in case there is an opportunity where you want SCAG to come and discuss more about the guide. Please reach out to me. My email is matute@scag.ca.gov, and I'll again drop that in the chat. Our intention is also through the Regional Pilots Initiative. It's a newer program inside SCAG where we're trying to launch pilot projects in 4 programs area that are scalable and replicable across our region. And then lastly, we'll be continuing our relationship building with the LA28 Mobility Executives Mobility Hub Subcommittee. And on the right-hand slide, just a plug, very thankful for my family who supported me. They did come check out Throne Restrooms. That's them in the upper right-hand corner. Alrighty, so thank you so much for that wraps it up for me. I am pleased to now introduce Jennifer Nguyen from the Riverside Transit Agency. She's going to talk about her agency's Vine Street Mobility Hub. And very quickly about Jennifer, she is the Director of Planning at RTA, where she leads the agency's planning work, including service changes, short and long-term service plans, and capital projects. She holds a master's in public health from Loma Linda University, and we're just so glad to have her here. Jennifer, Thanks for turning on your camera. I'm going to hand it off to you.
All right, thank you so much, Serenia. I really appreciate it. All right, my slides should be coming up. All right, thank you so much again, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Vine Street Mobility Hub. Really quickly, just a brief background on RTA, or Riverside Transit Agency. We were established as a joint powers agency on August 1975. Our service officially began on March 16th, 1977. So actually 2 days ago, we celebrated our 48th birthday here at RTA. We actually cover one of the largest service areas in the nation. We cover 2,500 square miles of Western Riverside County. Within that, we have 18 cities and 4 districts. For our bus services, we have our fixed routes. We got 32 local fixed routes. We have 3 commuter link routes which travel to other counties. So from Riverside County to Orange County, from Riverside County to San Bernardino County. We also have, it's about 2 years now, our Go Micro Transit program, which provides bus stop to bus stop service. It does require the advanced reservation, and this is specifically in the Hemet and San Jacinto area. As usual, we also have our Dollar Ride, or our DAR service, again, curb to curb, advanced reservation service for our seniors age 65 and above and persons with disabilities. Overall, we have a total fleet size of 290 buses. Really getting to the meat of what everyone's here for about the Vine Street Mobility Hub. It's really made possible thanks to a couple of the competitive grants that we were able to partner with and secure. We have the Transformative Climate Communities, or TCC, and the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities, or ASIC grants. This was helped funded through the State of California Strategic Growth Council. These particular grants really encourage transformative projects that really reduce greenhouse gases, emissions, and help really create healthier communities. Overall, with all the 14 partners involved, it was about a $31.2 million grant, and a part of our RTA's component was funding to help construct our Vine Street Mobility Hub. Another component of that program that I did want to highlight of those grants was the Transit Connection Program. The really neat part is part of those grants, they did construct affordable housing, and those grants did help fund some transit passes, RTA passes for each unit of the affordable housing complex. And so we're talking about 2,300 commuter link passes that were specific for the La Entrada residents. So one unit gets a pass for 3 years. Included with that is travel training. So how do you ride the bus? Giving them the confidence they need to get on board with RTA. In addition, there's a separate bundle of passes that will be distributed out to residents of the service area. Again, really, that was really highlighting, encouraging residents, encouraging the community to jump on board with RTA, utilize this free access to transportation, increase your access to higher education, job opportunities, ultimately help reduce congestion and improve air quality. Here's a sneak peek at the Vine Street Mobility Hub. You'll see in the corner there, it's like the wedge piece that you see there. It's lined by the 10th Street, Vine Street, and then on behind it, you have it bordered by the Highway 91 freeway. Again, really hoping to, I know Sarah talked about it, but increase safety, security, comfort, making sure everyone has a central location where they can transfer to regional routes, help improve connections between bus and rail. Actually, right across the street on the map, you can see is the Metrolink station, the Riverside Downtown Metrolink station. So really enhancing those bus rail transfers, and again, ultimately helping to reduce congestion. Throughout the whole process of us designing and developing and constructing the Vine Street Mobility Hub, it was really important for us to engage with the community. So at the very first phase, the conceptual phase, we were out there with the public. We made surveys available. We were in person surveying downtown Riverside. A total of 215 surveys were completed. We went door-to-door canvassing, mailers, and we also had 2 visioning workshops. Actually, in the top corner of the screen, you'll see we actually had a virtual meeting room that was available and open at all days, all times of the day, where people can come in, take the survey, learn about the project, provide their feedback. And this was really key for us to see, what did they want to see at the hub? What was important to them? And so we wanted to make sure we incorporated that feedback now into that final design phase. And even with final design, we also did community engagement for that as well. Same thing, we did surveys, social media blasts, email notifications, and door-to-door canvassing, as well as public workshops. And again, it was taken from this is what we heard from you. This is how the final design is going to look. Did we get it right? Was anything missing? I like to show these screenshots, these pictures here. So this is what the site looked like beforehand. You can see it's an empty dirt lot on there. Here's another view of it right here, and you can see the freeway. That's an insight into the freeway. And then here's kind of like an overview of the plan of what we were envisioning for the Vine Street Mobility Hub. You can see there's two different bus platforms here. You have bus platform 1, which is the larger one, the second one behind that one. There's also an operator's lounge, a security office, a community park space, as well as a plaza space. And down on Vine Street, you'll see like a curbside drop-off area. Here's a rendering of what the Vine Street Mobility Hub would look like. So going from that dirt lot that you guys saw before to this. And then here it is, the hub that is now completely constructed. So I'll go through a couple pictures of this and highlight some key points here. Here's another view. You can see one of the important things that we heard from the community is lighting. So you'll see that this is a very well-lit area over here. We also have here a sculpture. So this is actually a water sculpture here that's supposed to represent water. It's lit from the bottom. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see this little building here. That's going to be the public restrooms as well as a security office. Combined and connected to that building is also the coach operators lounge on that one. Here's another piece that's at the hub that we wanted to make sure that we highlighted as well. This is actually our Veterans Memorial, really paying tribute to all 6 of the forces there, and that was really nice to see. So it's a piece of the Vine Street Mobility Hub that's really there for the community. Here's another image of actually us servicing the Vine Street Mobility Hub now to kind of give you guys some brief backgrounds. About 4.5 acres. We also have staff parking lot. There's a total of 16 bus bays. We also have electronic kiosks, public restrooms on there. On top of the shelters, there's actually solar panels as well. We also have chargers on site there for our support vehicles for our operators. And here's another view of the bus coming down at the hub. Probably the biggest thing that everyone wants to learn is, what did we learn from our experience building the Vine Street Mobility Hub? So construction, for us, we had done design, bid, build. I think one of the things that we experienced was there was a lot of finger pointing between the design firm and the contractor. So maybe design build may have been a better process for us. Again, this is just our personal experience. Keeping detailed RFIs, requests for information, and submittal logs. I'm really big. Document as much as you can, because it'll be a really good resource for you to go back to if any delays happen or issues come up, which they always do. Having an accurate project schedule from the beginning is going to be really key. We had asked for this over and over and again, and when we finally did get it, it wasn't accurate. But having one, I think, from the get-go will be really important. And I would also recommend that you encourage your contractor to update that project schedule weekly and make sure to share it with the entire project team. And then something that came important for us too is liquidated damages, making sure you have that in the contract, because it definitely provides you with leverage when your project may get behind schedule for whatever reasons. In terms of operations, I'll always say, and I think my other colleagues will talk about this, is having strong partnerships. When we finished building the Vine Street Mobility Hub, we were testing it out. As much design as we put into that, we noticed it was a slight hard for a left turn out of the Vine Street Mobility Hub. We contacted the city. They went and they kind of shaved that median, making it a lot easier for our buses to make that left-hand turn. Kind of flowing into that, having operations test out beforehand. So before you officially launch and open, we had our bus drivers go out and test it, and that's really key to get them comfortable with how to navigate within the hub, giving them that confidence that they need. On-site security, also really important. It's one of the big things we heard from our community, making sure we have that available. We have cameras throughout the facility as well. Not on here, but I want to make a note, is space for our drivers. They actually have a break room on site. There's restrooms. There's a separate space for them to eat. There's even tables outside, a little patio area, making sure they feel comfortable and take the time they need to have their lunches or whatnot and take that break from their long routes. And then making it more than just a mobility hub, making it, we have drought tolerant landscaping on there. You saw the Veterans Memorial, there's like a community space. It's become more than just coming here to catch your transfers. It's a space for you to relax, enjoy, the scenery, etc. We actually have panels, informative panels throughout the Vine Street Mobility Hub that describes the history of our area, Riverside County, what are we known for? So it's really more than just a space for you to catch your bus. It's become much more than that. It's a nice, warm and an inviting space, and for us that was very key, and it's also what we heard from our community. And that's all I have. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll go ahead and pass this back to Sarinya.
Amazing presentation, Jennifer. I really appreciated your lessons learned, especially pertaining to construction and also the partnerships. And then as someone who used to work in transit, I'm very sympathetic to the fact that you figured out, of course, how to make the mobility hub serve your operators. All right. Now we're going to move on to Cal State Dominguez Hills. So I'm pleased to have Yancey Modesto join us. He is the Associate Vice President for Facilities Planning, Design, and Construction at Cal State University. He's been there since 2023. Previously, he worked at Cal State LA, also in planning, design, and construction, and he was a university planner in the Cal State University Chancellor's Office. He has extensive experience working in higher education to build housing, academic buildings, and conduct campus plans. He is also an international member of the the AIA. He's a lead green associate, and he has a master's in architecture from RISD. Yancey, thank you so much. Feel free to come on camera and to run through your slides.
Thank you so much, Serena. Good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be here. Well, let's get going. For those who don't know much about California State University, Dominguez Hills, I'll give a little bit of an introduction, just some context, and then we'll dive into the concept plans for the proposed mobility hub. So I'm hoping you see, you'll be seeing my screen here shortly. Let me share that. Let me know if you see it.
Yes, we do.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is the campus as it is currently, and just to give everyone context, we're located more or less in the middle of LA. As you can see, LAX downtown and the port of LA. We're bounded by some major freeways: the 110 to the west, 91 to the north, 405 to the south, and 710 to the east. So very accessible. You know, this mobility hub concept, you know, really stemmed several years in the making, as we are in the middle of an underserved community in the city of Carson. And the purpose there is to really provide better accommodations, accessible accommodations to not just our students, staff, and faculty, but generally to our community as well. So the mobility hub concept really, you know, is a critical part of our master planning. And to give everyone a context also on the actual campus, we're sitting in a 350-acre site in which 80 acres of our campus land, state land, is leased to our partners, AEG Dignity Health Sports Park, which is the home of the LA Galaxy MLS team. As you can see, the big stadium on the left here and other supporting athletic facilities as well. To the more or less center of campus, which is the academic core, most of the buildings support the academic mission. To the right, you will see a cluster of housing development. And then just adjacent to that, 70 acres, 70 acres of undeveloped land, which is quite rare for this general area in LA. So I wanted to start with talking about our master plan. And in this image, you'll see ongoing projects, future plans, 30, 50-year sort of vision of developing that 70 acres, and also critical components that will later on shape what we envision as the mobility hub for the community. So one one key aspect of the mobility hub is partnerships, right? So we have been forging a lot of great partners through the years. Actually, in the last 3 to 5 years, we've engaged with the city of Carson in developing a transit hub, a bus station. Currently, they only, buses are queuing up along Victoria, the north of campus, and there is really no formal bus station. So we're developing that with our partners, and also engaging with SoCal Edison. with regards to adding up to 200 EV charging stations on campus. So we're excited about that through their Charge Ready program, in which they are fully funding for our campus, for our community. But really, what's driving this mobility hub is the short-term goal of providing accommodations for LA 28. And as you know, the Olympics is coming to LA, and it's a car-free event. So the concept of a transportation hub, a mobility hub, really works well for our campus, since we will be sponsoring and hosting up to 4 Olympic events here, and most of it is going to be really in the AEG Dignity Health Sports Park complex, as you see here in the campus map. Another key item to note in speaking with Metro, they will be deploying up to 2,700 buses for the events in Southern California, and we have been tapped to be one of the major hubs for staging and servicing the 2,700 buses that will be deployed for the events for LA 28. So on the top of the screen, you'll see what we are planning and envisioning will be the components of the mobility hub. As I mentioned earlier, bus station, EV charging, different levels of EV charging. We're also accommodating ride share. We're also partnering with Toyota and their sister company Kinto with regards to EV car rental program that accommodates up to about $4 an hour for EV vehicles that's already available here on campus to be rented. And then in addition, other accommodations that we currently already have on campus, meeting spaces, food venues, and gathering spaces, landscaped areas, open areas, classrooms, all that already are operational and are available on campus. And stitching all that together with bike lanes, jogging trails, tree-lined pedestrian promenades, and what have you. Um, Here are just some images of projects that are ongoing that support that mission: affordable housing, more dining services, a health and wellness center, which will be used also for the Olympics. We're also developing a orthotics and prosthetics lab and facility, which will play a huge role for the Paralympics that will also have events happening on our campus. Another view of that. But we really wanted to talk about these are other foundation community buildings that will be developing and will be used also for the large events that will be coming 2026. FIFA will also be on campus. World Cup will be on campus to do practice games a couple of years before the Olympics. But I really wanted to get to this slide here, which talks about what's driving the mobility hub to really occur and develop and be completed in time for LA 28. So in this image, you see 4 events: rugby in the stadium, field hockey in the temporary turf facility will be built specifically for the Olympics, tennis and indoor cycling, in which existing facilities already can accommodate the events. So behind that red line is mainly campus, which will be having all those support facilities, housing, dining, amenities, the transit-centered mobility hub, all of that will exist there. Here's a diagram also of where Metro will be staging on campus, as I've mentioned earlier, in relation to the transit hub that we're developing with the city of Carson. So a lot of synergies here, mainly for the Olympics. Here's a diagram that shows how that transit hub will be put together. 8 queuing stations and then different transportation accommodations throughout the city of Carson. But here, this is basically the start of that mobility hub, where we take all those pieces, partnership with the city for the bus station, EV charging stations, car share, and what have you, and we're stitching that together with this pedestrian promenade, as you can see, a tree-lined colonnade, and other amenities like food trucks, sort of a park-like area to rest, bike rental, electric bike rental, possibly locker storage and other amenities that you would find in the mobility hub, aside from other accommodations that we already have on campus. So how far are we going to take this? So we talked about that stretch, that sketch that you saw earlier, which is mainly in front of the campus portion of our campus lot. We want to take that all the way up to the front of the stadium. So if you recall the image, let me go back a couple slides here to show you the Olympic here. You'll notice that there are no vehicles. Like these are all pedestrians getting onto the venue. This is and I'm gonna put a little diagram. That's sort of the main entrance where we're feeding from the mobility hub. So it's critical to make that connection from the transportation hub going all the way in front of the stadium. So that's sort of the extent of the mobility hub concept. Let me go back to that diagram. So that's the front. It wraps around, some amenities. From where we are, it goes all the way up to campus entrance. Here's some sketches of a cross section of that pedestrian promenade and some areas where we have rideshare drop off and connections to the bus station, which is right just past that image. This shows the same amenities with the EV charging stations, the ride share here, and the food venue and other amenities in that particular intersection. And then finally, I wanted to end up with a slide that shows the 84 Olympics that was also held, the one event that was held on campus, the cycling, and they also developed at that time our housing, which will be used also for the 28 Olympics. So we have hosted the Olympics in the past, so we're glad to have them come back. That wraps up the presentation, Serena. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oops, I'm going to turn my camera back on. Thank you so much, Yancy. I have my own questions for you that I am going to hold until the Q&A. Thank you so much, folks, for hanging out with us again. And now I am pleased to bring on our next speakers. They are a duo. I'm pleased to introduce Jean O and Salvador Gutierrez. So Jean O is the president and head of strategy at Transitos Bike Hub, where he's been driving growth since 2004. He is the lead on the LADOT Mobility Hub project and the City of Los Angeles' STAP initiative. He holds a bachelor's from UC Berkeley and has been working in the mobility space for over 2 decades. Salvador Gutierrez is with LADOT. He's a supervising transportation planner and where he's part of the commercial and rideshare mobility division. He's also the lead for all of LADOT's LA28 mobility hubs work. And so his big focus is on enhancing transportation infrastructure and mobility services for major events. He has his bachelor's from UC Santa Barbara and a master's of urban and regional planning from UCLA. Delighted. Thank you so much to Jean and Salvador, and I'm going to hand it off to you two. I know you're tag teaming.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Salvador, I believe you're going to go ahead and get us going.
Yes, just queuing up our slides. Can you all see them?
Yes.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, Serena, for that introduction, and thanks, Jean, for partnering up with me for this presentation. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Salvador Gutierrez, and I'm a supervising transportation planner at the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. I'm on the commercial rideshare mobility team, and I work with a stellar group of individuals that manage private operators like taxis and scooters in the public right-of-way. Our team integrates data and digital infrastructure to manage the public right-of-way and provide access to safe and equitable mobility options. I oversee our mobility hubs and autonomous vehicle work streams, And I just wanted to say thank you again to SCAG for this opportunity to present and participate in this timely discussion with our other panelists. So today I would like to share some information about mobility hubs in Los Angeles. At the moment, we are working with our contractor Transito to start planning and implementing the Integrated Mobility Hubs project, LA's Mobility Hubs pilot. So the Integrated Mobility Hubs project has been in the pipeline for quite some time. It started as an innovative idea in 2009. And back when two of our assistant general managers, Jay Kim and Tommy Carranza, were staff, and they secured a metro call for projects to implement first and last mile transit connectivity options via the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement funding program. And specifically, LADOT was able to secure $1.3 million to pilot mobility hubs in downtown Los Angeles. LADOT also successfully secured $8.35 million a grant through the Federal Job Access and Reverse Commute Program to expand the project scope to Hollywood and Long Beach for capital and operational costs. So while we were successful with securing grant funding, there are some stringent grant requirements that came along with this funding. So FTA, the Federal Transportation Administration, required LADOT to conduct a needs assessment and operating plan in order to determine key elements of the project and ensure the project area was aligned with federal goals. So the project was the first of its kind. As Jay and Tommy were promoted several times since inception of the project, there was no designated staff to shepherd the project forward until 2019. And as you all know, the global pandemic hit in March 2020. And this was a big hit for this project because the city did not allow any new contracts to be executed since the city was not generating a lot of revenue with the stay-at-home orders in place. So that brings us to 2022. We were able to secure some more funding through Measure M for this project, approximately $2.79 million. And then LADOT finally selected Transito to assist with the design, construction, installation, operation, and management of our Mobility Hubs project in downtown and Hollywood. And in 2024, after going through the necessary contracting review process, our contract was executed and the project selected the Technical Advisory Committee. So just to share a few challenges that we've encountered away, because LA is so large, our geography consists of 15 council districts, 468 square miles of land, and 7,500 miles of streets with a population of 4 million people. It's going to be challenging to implement as many mobility hubs as we'd like. And that brings us to the other challenge is the minimal funding of being able to do these demonstrations before the World Cup, which is next year, and the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games to be able to scale. So our vision for this project is really to provide people with more options to get around, to turn additional and modern transportation into a seamless experience, help people that are unfamiliar with alternative modes to be comfortable with new modes, and eliminating the unknown for the last mile and for the first and last mile for riders. And ultimately, what we really want is to provide people with mobility hubs to meet all of their transportation needs. And the way LADOT defines mobility hubs is a first and last mile multimodal solution that links individuals from transit or light rail to employment centers, job training centers, as well as a suite of mobility options centralized within a defined transit center. And this was the definition that we came up with for the grant. But this also expands to getting around to we'd like to expand it to medical appointments, grocery stores, and things like that, wherever school. And so this project will deliver the following mobility hub components. So secure bicycle parking, mobility hubs portal, access to on-demand microtransit services for transit users at the location of the hubs. And the project intends to connect folks to bike share, car sharing services, and provide a subsidy for low-income individuals. By the end of the project, our contractor Transito will create a kit of parts for future mobility hubs, both primary and satellite locations, and further define both types of mobility hub locations and the different types of services that could be provided. So it's been a journey to get to this point, and we've adopted an incremental planning approach, not by choice, but we're excited to get our mobility hubs project off the ground and up and running to create more efficient mobility connections. So our project is focused on implementing 13 mobility hubs. 10 of those are in the city of Los Angeles and 3 are in the city of Long Beach. So I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but this was a collaboration on the grant funding with the city of Long Beach. So in terms of the city, 5 of those will be in downtown Los Angeles at metro rail stations. So like Pershing Square, Pico Grande, and the 7th Street and Metro Center. And then there also include mobility hubs at 5 metro rail stations in Hollywood. And so um, in coming up in fulfilling our grant requirements, we created a needs assessment. And this needs assessment really recommended 3 regional districts in downtown LA, Hollywood, and Long Beach due to their high residential density, significant low-income population density, high employment activity, and high overall transit-dependent populations. So in addition to these criteria, LADOT hopes to create indicators or use indicators such as car ownership by household size and transit ridership to identify potential mobility hubs in other parts of the city, like the East San Fernando Valley, South LA, and neighborhoods near the Port of LA. And while we've been going through the motions to be able to get this project up and running, so much has happened in transportation. Mobility continues to evolve, and technology has played a critical role in transforming the mobility ecosystem. So real-time information is available when folks can see when their next bus is arriving. We can all catch a ride or hail a ride on our phone, and you can use your phone to reserve a metro bike or a scooter. So the city's strategy is to leverage transportation infrastructure investments and use and leverage the federal dollars, state grants, and local funding. And our team will leverage the advancements in transportation to improve the user experience and to improve accessibility to mobility options in Los Angeles. So in terms of that, as we talk about technology, LADOT has been at the forefront of using technology to transform our transportation network. In 2018, we developed the mobility data specification to manage emerging modes of transportation, such as autonomous vehicles and advanced air mobility. In 2028, scooters entered the streets and provided an opportunity to use the data specification to manage the influx of vehicles throughout this various parts of the city, like Venice and Hollywood. And so we really see MDS as the connective tissue between the physical and digital public realms. So the city is able to use MDS or uses written regulations along with pavement striping and curbside signs to communicate rules about parking and speed limits to the public prior to MDS. Now with MDS, the city can create digital policies that can be shared with scooter companies and taxis to create special operation zones, which designate locations where to park vehicles, limit fleet sizes, and require vehicles to reduce speed limits. These tools are game-changing with when traffic incidents occur and the city needs to restrict access to certain streets to reduce speed limits along a parade route, an event like the LA Marathon, or in neighborhoods during emergency evacuations. So as you can see, MDS allows the city to see travel patterns such as where trips start and end and analyze where to pick up and drop off. So having access to this information allows city staff to allocate designated locations in the public right-of-way to reduce congestion, ensure safe operations of new technologies, and plan for future infrastructure improvements. The Open Mobility Foundation has been super instrumental in continuing to build on the first iteration of MDS and convenes local cities across the nation to create consistency in how cities manage new mobility options. So one of the other items that we wanted to share that a digital tool that has been really critical is the curb data specification. So, the demands on the curbs have grown exponentially, especially with COVID, while our actual curb space has decreased to accommodate outdoor dining, pickup and drop-off zones. So LADOT is really interested in exploring several other measures to address this issue and provide more organized curbsides. Through the help of OMF, they created the curb data specification, and this has been successful in helping cities like LA, Seattle, Miami secure funding for pilots. And so ultimately what the curb data specification aims at is digitizing curb space and allows cities to make better use of the curb space and keep accurate records of assets that include signs, curb paint, and regulatory tools. So this tool allows people to allow cities to express curb regulations, measure activity, and develop policies that create more accessible and useful curbs. CDS has the potential to help cities and regions better manage how different modes are using the curb space near mobility hubs to create a better experience for the public. And so as you can see in the diagram, the curb space, we're competing for loading zones, making sure we have paratransit and accessible loading for folks that don't have that are in a wheelchair. And then also there's metered parking spots, and then also we're competing for space for our transit vehicles. So while we're implementing mobility hubs, we are also preparing for Los Angeles is hosting numerous international large-scale events, and collaboration is really going to be critical to get all the spectators, athletes, and dignitaries to these events to ensure how folks are commuting but also to make sure that folks who are commuting to school, work, and doctor's appointments are also able to get around efficiently. So in preparation for large-scale events, LADOT wants to partner with neighboring cities, especially with coordinating bus services and micromobility services across jurisdictional boundaries. We are partnering with Metro on many of the subcommittees preparing for the Olympics and Paralympic Games, and it's going to be critical to collaborate throughout the SCAG region, since many of the venues throughout LA County and folks will be coming from all over. So digital tools will ensure mobility service providers are operating safely across jurisdictions and help manage the number of fleets. Working together to facilitating deliveries during peak times will be critical during these large-scale events. So lastly, I just wanted to share that this mobility hubs work is underway, and it's really providing innovative mobility solutions. And so it's really helping us to use data and digital tools to manage and manage the interactions of different modes like scooters, Metro bike share, and the interaction amongst the different user groups like pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers near mobility hubs to provide a seamless experience for folks traveling to school, work, and leisure activities, and to big events like the World Cup. So overall, the Integrated Mobility Hub project will inform how cities define mobility hubs and how we prioritize locations, and it'll help us to rethink how to scale this strategy to other neighborhoods within the city of LA. Lastly, just wanted to say our mobility hubs implementation requires LADOT to strategically coordinate within the departments and within other city departments, and the mayor's office and council districts to provide safe and reliable transportation that is efficient and equitable for all Angelinos. So with that, I'll pass it on to Jeannie.
Thanks. So as Salvador talked about, there's a lot of different components just to get to where we are. The funding, the regulations, the compliance with the grant policies. So now let's talk about the challenges, right? This is kind of articulating what Salvador talked about, the grant requirement challenges, general governance issues, the actual geographic on the ground issues, and the funding in terms of long-term sustainability. So as we pass the baton, I think what's really interesting in terms of what we found is that it really is a true ongoing collaboration. There's obviously many ways that this handoff takes place from the public sector to the private sector in terms of operating and becoming contractors. But what we have found is true success and real long-term success is really best when it's continuing to be hand-to-hand collaboration. So Salvador and his group and what we're doing, it truly is an ongoing partnership. So when we talk about the solutions, let's go one-to-one in regards to practical things that you can think about. So grant requirements. As Salvador talked about, a lot of these grant requirements are extremely stringent. And in fact, the vast majority of the funds that are using for the Integrated Mobility Hubs project is a federal grant. In fact, this federal grant called JARC, which stands for Job Access Reverse Commute, is actually defunct. So we have very little latitude in regards to how these funding can be changed or altered. So certain solutions that we have found, not only for this JARC grant, but for grants in general, is to capitalize a lot of OpEx expenses. I'm sure a lot of you in the government sector are used to projects that CapEx is something that you're able to get, but ongoing OpEx is always the hard thing. So what we have found is in our time working with transit agencies and cities over the last couple of decades, finding ways to bundleize or what we call productize expenses, it really works out well. So for example, we've been able to productize staffing with making them ongoing licensing fees or creating ongoing warranties, whether it's a 5-year or a 10-year plan. productizing ongoing maintenance expenses by making it a single product. So these are ways that we're able to capitalize OpEx expenses and really make sure that once the adoption takes place and you actually have users starting to change their mode share based upon these great grant projects that you have, that it doesn't all of a sudden get abandoned. The next thing, let's talk about governance. Now, this has been very difficult. So as Salvador talked about, LADOT is a sponsoring agency, but actually Metro is the one that was the go-between between the federal funds and this grant program. And the city of Long Beach is also a sponsoring agency. So, what we did to solve this is we really decided we had to have really strong ambassadors with each of these agencies. So we developed a TAC structure, Technical Advisory Committee, and we really empowered them to, really kind of have that, again, ambassadorship to take the lead and to not only, do the actual, nudging if we need, but really more than anything else, kind of showing that, there is a strong leadership in place and kind of getting people to understand how important this project is. So, for example, with LADOT, as Salvador talked about, we have 2 assistant general managers that are in our TAC, Jay Kim and Tommy Carranza, to both leading the transit operations as well as the acting as a CTO for DOT. On the Metro side, we have Frank Ching and Marcel Porras leading the infrastructure as well as mobility hub planning for Metro, as well as the deputy in charge of the CEO's Office of Strategic Innovation. So again, very high profile positions to really kind of show the entire company of 12,000 employees at Metro that this is a very important project for the entire organization. City of LA, we got the deputy mayor in charge of transportation, Randall Winston, part of our TAC as well. And just recently, we got Eric Lopez, head of public works at City of Long Beach. So again, this is kind of our way of solving this governance issue with the public side. But of course, that's just one aspect, right? The nonprofit side, of course, is just as important. This is something that we've fostered over the years, really getting strong nonprofit organizations that we feel are strategically placed to really show the larger public stakeholders, specifically in Los Angeles, the council districts, to that, we have broad coalition support. So Move LA, Bike LA, Climate Resolve, and Cal Life, which is actually instrumental in pushing this new ADA requirements throughout the entire city. These are just a handful of many different organizations that we have, again, to show this broad support that we have for what we're doing here. And then on the private side, we're bringing in this bigger idea, right? That transportation really is as you know, it's not just multimodal now, but it's multi-agency, and it brings in the private side just as much as the public. So, bringing in these strong names that oftentimes are seen as perhaps antagonistic, but are starting to, play a different tune as they're starting to realize that the benefits of really partnering with public agencies. So Uber, BikeLink, Move It, these are 3 of our strongest partners for this project, and others, to again show that what we want to build is not just something that is simply for public agencies or using public transit, but really looking at this on a broader realm of what we can do. I love showing the slide because it just scares me to death every day. Every morning when I wake up and we're trying to build out mobility hubs on the right-of-way in the city of LA, this keeps me up at night to show how complex it is. To put simply, the curb is the most contested right-of-way and piece of real estate in any city, right? Whether the city's big or small, it is the most contested because you have so many different agencies that have jurisdiction. And so this cross jurisdiction of any piece of real estate on the curb kind of shows how complex it is. This is the challenge, but also this is where the solution is really so needed. It really is the idea of just getting to yes. And so, you know, I think the way that we solve this is to get heroes and to get advocates in every single department. And I think what's important here is to understand that, you know, as you know, it's not just about getting the leader on top, but also getting the staff level, the planner level also bought in. Because, you know, throughout the entire process, there is a ton of different approvals, right? And if only one person has to say no, and if that one person says no, the entire project falls apart. So, you know, really the key here is getting to yes. And really going, you know, step by step, phone call by phone call, email by email, you know, getting everyone's point of view of what they're looking for, what's their, you know, task that they need to make sure they're delivering, and finding a way that it works for everyone. It sounds difficult, and it is very definitely time consuming, but actually it is not at the end of the day difficult, because as you know, planners are you know, people that want to change the world. These are people that you know, we're all aligned in our same mission, that we want to make the world a better place, and we feel like we can make a difference. And so all of us wanted to play a part in making a difference. We just need to find a way to get to yes. And really, it's about finding out what their key you know, needs are, and working through that. So when it comes to funding, you know, there's different models that we've played with, and in fact, there's different models that we're playing with this single project alone. You know, as SCAG mentioned, there's many ways to get a project going. You know, for the bus shelter contract, which we'll kind of segue to in just a second, we were actually doing design, build, operate, maintain. So our team, Transito, we're part of a joint venture called Transito Vector. We brought in an advertising partner to help creating the funding mechanism to keep this program going long term. But we're actually in charge of the entire stack of this, if you will. We helped to design the project. We brought in 2 different architectural firms to design the project in many different aspects, and I could talk about that if we have time. You know, to build, and so in our build process, we're not just building the bus shelters, but we're building the entire sidewalk. This has become not just a shelter project, but it's become a sidewalk project as well as an electrical project, because we're upgrading the electrical circuits as well. It's an operations program where we're doing maintenance on this, you know, coming to shelters anywhere up to 4 times a week to keep things maintained, trash disposal, graffiti abatement. And so, and of course, maintaining and making sure we're replacing the products as they get broken. So it really is the full stack, and the funding mechanism in this case is advertising revenues. Another way that we're dealing with funding on the integrated mobility hub projects is something that we're calling a pilot of pilots. You know, we're looking at this pilot program as one that can bring in multiple pilot programs to create really a dual benefit. So the UBM is something that we're looking to incorporate into integrated mobility hubs project to not only bring in more attention to the UBM program and bring in more people to have awareness of the UBM program, but also to leverage the UBM funds to help create you know, subsidies for our members of the mobility hub project. So again, you know, this idea of a pilot of pilots is something that we're considering with you know, shared delivery lockers, with autonomous fixed route transportation, with ticketing, you know, with enforcements. So there's a ton of different pilot programs that cities have, and the idea of bringing them in to really, again, feed both sides, both in awareness as well as additional services, is something that we're looking at for long-term sustainability. And finally, when it comes to grant funding, you know, I think what we're looking at is how can we not just, you know, apply for grants, but create a long-term SOP so that these grant fundings can be, you know, codified and also easily replicable, so that when staff, you know, bandwidth gets constrained, we're able to either offset that with, you know, third-party resources, or when staffing becomes available on the public side, a new staff member can come in, maybe even an intern can come in and apply for grant funding and put in the hours to apply for those, but still make it the quality and make the vision unified. So the last thing I want to say is that we really need to look at being creative. In the days of Doge, where funding is oftentimes constrained or unpredictable, we really got to think outside the box and figure out ways to make all of our programs sustainable and growable. So, for example, what we're doing with LA is we're actually putting in two projects and in essence putting them together. As Salvador talked about, the Integrated Mobility Hubs project, it aims to build out 13 primary hubs at the metro rail stations, 85 satellite hubs, which are actually like a 1 mile radius within any of the 13. But our goal is actually to build out 1,000 mobility hubs, primarily satellite hubs. So to get to the 1,000 number, we really got to think through how we can look at what mobility hubs are going to be defined as. And that's where the second project that we're working on with the City of LA comes in, the STAP project, or Sidewalk and Transit Amenities Program, which is the bus shelter program. So what we envision is that today's bus stops are tomorrow's mobility hubs. It is ultimately the best network of mobility hubs out there. It's what we can really look at for this not only a wide network that can happen in any city, but really it provides equity in the environment all in one. In LA, for example, the average household income of Metro bus riders is $19,000. It is truly the most at need that are riding the bus. And yet it's the new mobility vehicles such as Ubers and Lyfts or transit or commerce like Amazon and Grubhub that's parking on the right-hand lane, causing the buses to get slower. And so you actually are having this true conflict where those that have are causing negative externalities to those who have not. So, really looking at the bus stop as a way to, increase the usage of it and also divert that right-hand lane clogging by thinking of things such as delivery lockers, scooter charging docks, to really create this multimodal mobility hub, but also create opportunities for vehicles to not have to park on the right-hand lane as often. It's something that we see as being creative and also, making both projects bigger and stronger together. We're looking at that also in ways to combine the apps. So there's an app that we're developing for the STAP program, but there's also an app that we're developing for the Mobility Hubs program. So looking at them as a singular app, but also looking at all the apps as a way to integrate together through digital pipes is this long-term vision to really make Mobility Hubs, again, not just a city-centric project, but something that is going to really unify the entire region. So I'll leave you with a couple of ways that we can look at this region-wide. I think it's amazing the way that we looked at what Jennifer's doing in a bus depot, what Yancey's doing in a campus structure, what we're doing at bus stops, how they could all work together, being so different is you look at things like kit parts. We think and call them Lego pieces, right? Is looking at these Lego pieces, looking at structures that could be changed and can be restructured based upon the environment and really not just the need of the people, but also the realities of the ground and being able to have the same structures be moved and expanded as needed. And so that really, when you put them together, creates this long-term, truly sustainable kit of parts that can work everywhere. And to bring a full circle, that's exactly what SCAG has done in creating a singular way to look at mobility hubs that can work in all sorts of environments. So thank you for your time and looking forward to any questions.
Oh, wow. This is incredible. Thank you so much, Jean and Salvador, for talking about the City of LA's vast and multifaceted mobility hub program. Especially really enjoyed the last part about the kit of parts. I think it's really important for those of us who want to build networks in our communities to figure out, well, how do we scale this in a way that is sustainable and feasible in order to manage. So thank you so much. Okay, we have about 15 minutes left, and I have a couple of polling questions, but Jennifer, can we skip to number 6, which is to ask, now that everyone's, had a chance to hear in it, I want to ask people, what do you think is the most important element to include in a mobility hub? And the options include things like restroom, security cameras, real-time passenger information. I'm just interested to get a read of this room. And I'll be quiet for about a minute. And then while people take the poll, if you've got additional questions for our panelists, please feel free to drop them in the chat. You can also raise your hand and I will call on you. Thank you. Now I'm just trying to figure out where did the poll go on my screen. Jennifer, I didn't make the poll disappear, did I?
No, I still see it.
Okay, you see it, which is great, but I don't see it
Is the
anymore.
window
Hang on a sec.
maybe minimized?
It probably is. It's probably on my end. Oh, hi. Thank you so much for taking the survey. I've about 55 have responded. A third have discussed the importance of shade, followed by real-time passenger information and bathrooms. Very interesting. Alrighty. Well, I really appreciate the input that will inform future research and work here at SCAG. Now I am going to move on to the Q&A, and oh, this is amazing. We've got some questions here. So the first one is from Chris Schmidt. He's asking, how are you dealing with long-term maintenance costs and obligations? I'm going to put this question of Jennifer. And then also at the same time, someone's asking if there are any more plans for additional mobility hubs in Riverside in order to form a network.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. I think long-term operations and maintenance costs is a big thing for everyone. And so that's definitely something we keep in mind whenever we decide to build a mobility hub. I will tell you that, for example, we are planning to build a hub in Hemet. And that's one of the things we're kind of tackling is like, how can we partner together on operations maintenance? And so we're kind of looking at, I guess, creative solutions to that. So just more to fall on when that's going to come. But yeah, it's definitely a long-term cost. I think that a lot of transit agencies have to consider. For the other question, I think it was about mobility hubs throughout Riverside County. I'm assuming the Riverside. So again, as I mentioned, we are kicking off our comprehensive operational analysis, our COA study, which will look at how our service should look in Western Riverside County across the next 10 years. And a key component of that will be looking at where else our mobility hub is needed throughout our service area where it makes sense. And so more to follow on that one. That's going to be kicking off probably sometime this summer. So we'll be meeting with all of our jurisdictions to talk about their areas of growth. So we can take that into consideration when we're planning for our next 10 years in terms of service growth. But as of right now, there will be one slated for Hemet.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I've been monitoring to try to understand or assess the situation on the Hemet Mobility Hub, and so it's so really wonderful to hear that it is still a very active project that is in development. The next set of questions are for LADOT/Transito. One person would like to know, how is Transito prioritizing the deployment of the upgraded bus stops? And another question just talked about funding plans alluded for the 1,000 mobility hubs. Are those
Yeah,
things that Jean can answer, or LADOT can go ahead and answer?
I'll answer the first two questions, and I think Salvador could tag on the second question since that relates to both of us. So I have great, news about the prioritizing deployment. And I think one thing that I should add that's really unique about this design, build, and operate, I forgot the fourth word, process with staff is that the city actually owns the project. And this is what's very different about staff, is that usually bus shelter contracts that are advertising based are really concessionaire contracts, right? Where the advertiser comes in, they say, we'll pay for everything, and you get 20% of the rev share, right? In this project, the city owns the CapEx, they pay for the CapEx, and they actually get two big things in result of that. Number one, they get 60% rev share, so triple the rev share. But more importantly, they get to dictate where and when shelters get installed. So instead of being just in high transit, areas where revenue gets maximized, they're putting it in areas of most need. So what the city did is actually they did a 5-step prioritization criteria based upon highest need in terms of transit ridership, the heat index. So in Los Angeles, a lot of the bus shelters will be right along the valley, right, where there's the most amount of heat. The proximity to transit, destinations such as universities or services, the trip, frequency, and long wait times. So that's kind of how we're prioritizing. It's all city based, and it's again a very strong partnership, because obviously advertising revenues are the driver to make sure that we're able to build at locations where you're not able to sustain a network and maintain it properly. So again, this is the great partnership that we do. In regards to how we can get to 1,000 mobility hubs, this is again the idea of being very creative about, first of all, defining what the mobility hub is, and then finding other projects to become this pilot of pilots approach. So the bus shelters and really kind of looking at bus stops as today's bus stops being tomorrow's mobility hubs, and then making that part of the network as part of it. But also partnering with other pilot programs such as EV charging, as that's becoming online in LA, curbside charging stations, working with delivery partners as they start to build out a network of shared delivery locker bays. This idea of bringing in both public and private partnerships and making all of this kind of really holistic and harmonious. That really is the ultimate story, right? Is finding ways to look at this truly as a network, and making these not disaggregated, but really as a singular solution. Because ultimately, by doing so, if I'm going to be very frank and get on my soapbox just for a second, the curbside, as I mentioned, is the most contested piece of real estate, and there's a supply-demand mismatch that's continuing to grow. And specifically, private industry is using public assets and providing negative externalities and not paying their fair share. Well, if cities can work together and really exert their force and really their right of way, and really tell private industry, if you want to use our supply, you need to comply with our rules, the leverage can really change 180. And really that's the name of the game. Salvador, I don't know if you want to fill in about how we're going to get to 1,000 as well.
Thank you, Gene. Yeah, I think in terms of the 1,000, it's going to take creativity, as you were mentioning. So for us internally, what we're thinking about is, how do we strategize with existing work programs? So like my colleagues on my team, like a lot of them manage a Metro Bike Share, the micromobility contracts, or not contracts, but services that are in the city. And then our car share program. So how are we thinking about like coordinating expansion efforts to prioritize high need communities as Jean was talking about, like our internally, we have a transportation plan policy and planning team that is developing an equity index, and so really looking at indicators of that look to that show the highest need communities. We really want to go there because you know, one of the models that we're looking at initially was areas that have that high transit usage, but there are a lot of locations and within the city of LA that do not have high transit connections. So we especially want to make sure that we're prioritizing those communities. I think one of the things that Jean was talking about is the curb space. So I talked about the curb data specification. So with that, yeah, with us having a better pulse on what's happening on our curb, you know, we'll be able to provide dynamic curb pricing. And so what that means is for those folks that are coming into downtown or other parts of the city during high peak times, like maybe charging you know, companies that are doing deliveries a certain fee so that we can go ahead and use those funds and reinvest it into other parts of the city for infrastructure improvements. And so using these digital tools really will allow us to really manage our public right of way and really bring benefits back to the public.
Thank you for your answer, Salvador. It is very helpful to figure out process and then trying to achieve outcomes at the same time. We have a couple of more questions in our chat. We're almost at time. So I'm actually gonna, there's a question here for Cal State to Menges Hills, and I just want to stress that I don't know if you guys expounded on it so much in this presentation, but their mobility hub project was partially made possible through the strong collaboration with the city of Carson, and then also with their partner Toyota. That is a philanthropic relationship that that university has been proudly managing probably for 2 decades. Oh yeah. I'm going to let Yancy, do you think you can answer this question about coordinating with the local city on connecting the planned campus bike path on Victoria into the city bike network? And then at the same time, Jennifer M., do you mind popping up the slide? Do you mind popping up the slide? Yes. And so this is a 2-minute survey to let us know how to improve future Toolbox Tuesdays.
Happy to, Serena. I'll be brief. And thank you for the question, Emily. So our department, Facilities Planning, Design, Construction on campus, we have been diligently working with the city of Carson for over a year now, specifically connecting their bike lane network towards campus. So they have shared with us a series of plans that really wrap around the campus, showing new bike lanes and what have you. And in addition, actually, just recently, we received a grant from SCAG to develop an alternative transportation analysis, you know, through TDM, to look at that even further and really facilitate how we bring those bike lanes in campus and accommodate, you know, whatever is required to really develop that. And that will definitely help with the mobility hub components. Hopefully that's.
I think that's a great answer. Emily, if you wish to follow up with Yancy, please just send me an email and I will gladly put you two in touch. I think you guys would find a lot in common. So this almost, I think, oh yeah, there was another person who did ask a question about whether there was a local ordinance allowing for advertising in the public right of way. That might be a quick question that Salvador can answer in the chat. And then there was someone else that asked about how familiar is the general public with the term or word mobility hub. That is an existential question. I don't think we're going to be able to conquer that today. But anyway, just want to wrap this up. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Again, take the survey. Please download or view the guide. It's on our website at scag.ca.gov/mobility hubs. And I assume most of you are subscribed to our emails. If not, please subscribe to SCAG emails on our website again at scag.ca.gov. Thank you so very much and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Take care now.
Thank you.